All right, this weekend we are talking about ways to protect your money using contracts. And there's three things that I really want everybody to remember. And I'll go into them in just a second, but it's the 3 Ps of contracts: party, price, and performance. Those three things are really, really important. So I know, there's this old way sometimes of doing business, a handshake, right? They used to talk about in the old boys club that you could just shake on it and, your handshake was bond, right?
Right.
That's only in movies, or I don't know, it doesn't happen anymore today. But sometimes people go into business with each other or make an agreement with each other, and they will make an oral agreement, right? And oral contracts do have some weight, but they're really hard to enforce later because it becomes party A said versus party B said. And then you look at the actions of each party to see what was agreed to. That's a lot harder to bring to a judge or to a third party if there's a dispute. What's much easier is to bring something that's written down on paper. So I always encourage people to write down your agreement on paper, because then if I'm looking at it later and I wasn't there during the negotiations, that piece of paper should have everything that a third party needs to know to help enforce the agreement. So that's a big thing too. So I know sometimes we go through these actions and we don't know why we're writing things down, but that's why you're writing it down, because if there's a dispute, you want that piece of paper to tell a third party who knows nothing about you, nothing about the business, nothing about the relationship between you and the other party, to look at it and say, this is what should have happened. It didn't happen, so this is how we make it better. So it's a just in case kind of a situation, right? So so write it down. So I'll talk about the 3 Ps. The first thing is the party. Make sure you get the right party name down when you are contracting. So to protect you on both ends, you want to make sure that the entity that you are putting down that you're working with is actually the right entity. I always give this example of McDonald's, right? McDonald's is a fictitious business name. That's the brand name of, McDonald's Corporation, but the McDonald's right here in downtown Oakland is not owned by the corporation. It's owned by a private company that is doing business as McDonald's. If I'm suing McDonald's in downtown Oakland, I have to go and look up or make sure I'm contracting with the right legal owner, not the nickname of the business, not the fictitious business name, right?
How do you look up the legal owner?
Yeah. So one, you could ask the party that you're talking to, right? Especially if, like, I had a contract come to me, just hired someone to help me with some writing. And for me, she put down that she was contracting with Asha Wilkerson. And I said, no, I'm doing this through my business. I want you to put down my corporation name so that the contract is with the corporation. So it works on both sides, right? You want to make sure that you're signing contracts in the name of your business. It's because if for some reason something goes wrong, you can't fulfill the contract, you get busy, you got to let this client go. They are trying to enforce that agreement against the business and not attaching it to you personally. And that's the exact same reason that you want to make sure you have the right name for the other party as well.
When you sign the contract in your business, do you sign Asha Wilkerson Law Office, or do you sign Asha Wilkerson owner? Or
yeah, that's actually a really good question. So I sign it Asha Wilkerson, and on the right under my signature is my name again, Asha Wilkerson, the Wilkerson Law Office. So you sign it, because you do need to put the representative's name down for the company, but you want to make sure that the company is listed on that signature line. And also in the beginning of the contract, it should say who the parties are. The Wilkerson Law Office agrees to work with client John Smith, right? Or it would say, the Wilkerson Law Office agrees to work with ABC Corporation to perform the following services.
Right.
And then at the end for the signature, you need to have it clearly identified who signed it, like what their actual name is. Because again, if a third party comes in, or maybe it's a 10-year like a 10-year lease agreement or something like that. So lots of stuff happens in between. You need to be able to say, this is the representative from the company that actually signed it on behalf of the company and bound the company. So parties are important. You also want to think about if you have to enforce it. Companies generally will have more money than the individuals, and so you want to, generally speaking, you want to be contracting with the company.
Correct.
Okay, so price is the next thing. Price is important for an obvious reason. You want to know how much you're going to get paid, but the less obvious things to include in the price area is how are you going to get paid. So for instance, I went to the acupuncturist the other day, and he said it was cash or check only, no credit card, right? How are you accepting payment? Cash or check, no credit card, all three, no checks, right? Nowadays, people don't want to take checks. That's fine. But how are you going to be paid? Also, if the other party is late in paying you, are there any penalties for late payment? Is there a $20 late fee? Is there a 10% interest rate for each month that it's late? Is it $1 a day? What is it? Those things you want to think about. And if you want it to be silent, then purposefully leave it silent, but it's up to you. But those are the things that you think about when for another client, I'm helping them collect a $12,000 outstanding invoice from one of their former clients, right? So they didn't have a written down contract, but on there, if they would have included, an annual interest rate, then they could have had like $5,000 or $6,000 more that were at stake, depending on what the interest rate is based off the 12,000. That might be it. It's a pretty decent penalty for having to wait almost 2 years to get paid. But if it's not on there and a judge says, nope, you didn't put it on there, you can't get it, then it really is it's just the balance of the contract. And there's really no incentive for someone to pay on time or to pay sooner rather than later. So that's that. So parties and price. I think, did I miss anything for price? Yeah, what day is it due, right? If it's 2 payments, is it due in advance, like a down payment and then paid when services or the product is received? Can it be monthly? All of those things you want to put down and be very specific in the contract, because again, if you're saying this person didn't pay me or this business didn't pay me, and the judge has to look at it and say, how were they supposed to pay you? What format? Is there any penalty for it being late? All of that stuff would be in that contract that you take to the judge. Okay. And then the last one is performance. Performance describes the work that is going to be done. Usually the performance for one side is the payment, and for the other side, it's, sending the goods or doing the service. But you do want to be specific again in what is the service that's being provided. So I see this all the time with like web designers or maybe app developers. Anything that, you can imagine with a web designer or like a website or an app, you could have infinite revisions if you don't put a cap on how many revisions are in there, right? This is, I promise to deliver a sales copy page to you with 2 revisions. That's very clear that after the second revision, our agreement is up and we can start a new one, but that's it. You're not going to keep coming back indefinitely for that. So what is the thing that is being measured for health and fitness professionals? You're not guaranteeing weight loss. There are some things that do that, and I don't think that's a very smart guarantee as a health professional, because there are so many things that are outside of your control, right? You can't control what a person's going to eat. You might not know what else is going on in their body. What if there's other stressors? What if they say they're going to the gym, but they're not? So what are you promising to deliver? You're promising to deliver 2 1-hour personal training sessions a week for the next 6 weeks, right? And a method and a meal plan, but you're not guaranteeing I'm going to make you lose 50 pounds in 50 days. Would be nice, but that's not really something you can guarantee, right? So you want to be careful about what is the outcome that you're promising. Also, if the party if you need to receive something from the party before you can get started. So again, going back to the sales page example, there's probably going to be a questionnaire that I'm going to send to you. So I know what your brand is, what do you want on the page, you know, all this stuff before I am triggered to deliver my performance. So if that needs to happen, then this, you know, I will begin work once I receive the questionnaire from you. You want to make sure that that's done. On some of these larger contracts, let's say you're, you know, doing an event and you have 6 months to plan and people are paying in installments, you know, month 1, this is due and this is what I will give you. Month 2, there's another chunk of money due and this is what the deliverables will be. Month 3, this is what's due and this is what's coming next. So you want to think about it again, especially for these kind of longer term contracts. How can you break it down into smaller performance type pieces so that for 2 things, you can see when performance hasn't been done, but 2, if you've done some of the work and then haven't got paid, you're not on the hook to do the rest of the work. So it's like little mini contracts within one. So those are the 3. They are party, price, and performance. They need to be in every contract and they need to have some details behind them. And again, when you're writing this stuff out, keep in mind that the reason why you have a contract is in the event that something goes wrong. I know lawyers were always doomsday, right? But you'll be happy that you had that contract and you'll see why it's important if something happens to go wrong. But of course, we don't want it to go wrong. And it's also used as a tool to get people to act right, right? It's like, oh, shoot. Yeah, I signed my name to that line, then, you know, I better make sure that I perform because it's an agreement that I made. So that's it.
Okay.
Got any more questions?
I did ask, I want to ask about tailored contracts.
Uh-huh.
How do you feel about them? And do you feel that you should have a tailored contract for your client and probably for your vendors or independent contractors?
Mm-hmm.
Can you speak to
Yes.
that?
Yeah, absolutely. So I always encourage people. So a lot of folks will look on the internet and get like a contract template, right? The only problem with doing that is that it is not specifically tailored to what your needs are and what your business is. And if you don't get it in the right state, then, you know, each state has different sets of contract laws. So I always recommend that businesses go to an attorney and have a custom made template that you can use. So you have an agreement that you're going to use every time with a client that wants, you know, 5,000 member conference, right? You might have another template, but that's been designed for you that you use for birthday parties, and another one that you use for, you know, another thing. And then you adapt them, turning it or filling in the client name, maybe the price if that changes, right? There's certain things that can change. Maybe the deliverables change, but the clauses that are really important in each state don't change, and you've had an attorney draft it and review it for you so you know that it's good and sound. And then you could have it updated, you know, every couple of years, maybe for events like yours, Talifer, maybe you want to change the insurance agreement. There's always some kind of indemnification clause when you're doing events, and you just want to make sure that that stays up to date, but it's not going to change every year, but every couple of years, I would recommend review after that.
It's the consultation part because, you know, depending on what it is, it's not always an hourly situation. So,
right.
You know, trying to identify, okay, I'm providing consultation, and at the end, this is the product that you will have received. You know, like I was talking about previously regarding homeless, you know, Feed the Homeless event. It's kind of hard to articulate in writing, like we're having short meetings. You based on that conversation, I create this, you have to sign off on it, then we go to the next step, and then at the end you have this. It's kind of hard to.
Right. So I would say it depends on how much money is involved and how long you're going to be working with the group, right?
Okay.
So maybe there's I don't know, like a study abroad situation where the first part is you got to secure the hotel, right? The next part is you've got to secure the plane tickets. The next part is then you actually have to plan the itinerary. So we've seen that when you see these like big group rates and travel, right? $500 down to secure your spot. The next 800 is due to secure the hotel, and the next, you know, amount is due to secure the next thing, right? And so that way, if you don't get that $800, you're not doing any more work
And we're
after that.
done. Right.
Yeah. So, and then the other thing I think you said initially about consultations is that you can charge for consultations, especially I think it's a lot easier if you use a scheduler. So for me, I use Acuity, but there's also Calendly. I think Dubsado has a calendar that's built in or integrates with one of those two as well. There's a few that are out there. So on that, people are signing up, they're paying you to get an hour's worth of your time or however much time, you know, that you're willing to give them, right? And in the confirmation or in the description of the event, you can be clear about this is a 1 hour consultation. This is a 15-minute consultation for $55. In this meeting, we will discuss the following things as it relates to your business, right? Your delivery is the 1 hour worth of time. And their promise is to pay you the $55 for your hour. And at the end of it, it's up. There's no more, you know, no more obligation. So I always recommend, I think it's much easier to take payment for consultations if you have some kind of online booking system. You can put the agreement in there.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. You are welcome. All right, Facebook community and non-live watchers, I hope you all have a wonderful day. And let me know if you have any questions or need any help with those contracts. I'm more than happy to dive in and help you out. Bye.
Thank you.